what does gutsy mean to you?
Oh, what does gutsy mean? Gutsy means like looking at something and knowing, you know what, I want that. And all of the things that say it's I'm too old or I'm too young or I don't have enough money or I don't have enough time, send it all to what we call the fuck off room. And then just go for it. Because honestly, at the end of the day, what do you have to lose? Between now and dead, what is the life that you want to live, right? So there's almost not a time when somebody comes to the end of their life that they're like, damn, I wish I wouldn't have tried so many things. It's the opposite. It's like we think we have all this time and we don't. And if there's something on your heart or something that you have a desire, I don't care if it's learning how to paint or going to ride a horse in the blue Caribbean waters, and I say that because I just did that and that was like on my bucket list because I'm an island girl and a horse girl. Like whatever it is, figure it out. And just because you don't have the how and you have no idea the solution or the steps, the how is not your job. Get really clear. Stay in the energy of this is happening and let the universe figure out the how.
Welcome to the Gutsy Podcast, the show where you learn how to own what you actually want and shift the mind junk that's been holding you back. I'm Laura Ora, keynote speaker, coach, and your guide to help you get clarity, build confidence, and make the gutsy moves that change your life. Each week, I'm going to help you simplify things by teaching you how to get out of your head while stepping into action. This way you can achieve all those life shifts that you've been overthinking. Your desire, that drives you. But gutsy, that's what gets it done. You have done the work. You've built a career, grown as a person, created a life that you're genuinely proud of. And yet the relationships, they still feel like a place where the patterns keep showing up. The same dynamics, the same disappointments. And eventually you start wondering, how is this still happening? In this conversation with Riana Malia, we're talking about the deeper patterns underneath our relationships, the beliefs, experiences, and conditioning that quietly shape who we choose, what we tolerate, and whether we trust ourselves when something feels off. We get into intuition, subconscious patterns, self-worth, and what it actually looks like to clear old stories before creating something different. This isn't a conversation about dating. It's a conversation about becoming unavailable for the things and the people that no longer align, and creating the space for what does. If you ever felt like your love life doesn't match the woman you've become, this episode is for you. Riana is the founder of Clear to Create, a transformational company helping high-achieving women break free from old relationship patterns and create extraordinary love that matches the life that they've built. Using a blend of neuroscience, somatic psychology, and identity work, her Clear to Create method helps women rewire subconscious beliefs and shift nervous system patterns that have shaped their relationships for years. Through private intensive mentorships and speaking, Riana supports women in bridging the gap between external success and true inner fulfillment. In this episode, Riana reminds us that feminine leadership in life and love requires self-trust, emotional regulation, and everyone's personal favorite, letting go of control. Let's get into it. Hey, Riana, welcome to the Gutsy Podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Me too. This is so we're talking about matching vibrational levels of success in career, in your business, and now also that same feeling in love and relationships and marrying those things together. And gosh, when those things just line up, life is different, isn't it?
That's where the magic is, babe.
That's where the magic is. I can't help but think that maybe you've had an experience with this that led you to this work. Is that fair to say?
That is fair to say.
All right, give me the backstory. What led you here?
So I was born in Maui. We were talking about that before the show. Parents divorced when I was 2 or 3. We went back. My mom and I went to Minnesota. My dad went to California. She raised me as a single mom. I had the most amazing grandparents in the whole world, my Bumpy and Gigi. I literally grew up in a horse barn in a tiny town in southern Minnesota. And then I went off to college, and Dad said, hey, I never helped you. I never helped your mom. I'm going to take care of room and board freshman year. I'm like, great. I get there. I'm doing the freshman thing. I'm 18. I'm in a dorm. My mom moves to another country. And about 6 weeks in, I get a call. And they're like, oh, sorry, your bill was never paid and you're fully maxed on loans. And so I said, all right. So should I leave school or what should I do? And I think it was the first time, not that I could articulate it at 18, where when we're faced with something that we're like, I don't know how the fuck I'm going to get to the other side, we often think we can't because of a lack of resources, time, money, energy, support. But it's really about tapping into that part of us that's resourceful, right? It's the resourcefulness. So in that moment, I decided, well, what else am I really going to do? So I left the dorm. I got 3 jobs. I rented a 5-bedroom house. I filled the other 4 bedrooms. I did the thing. And there was that sense of like disappointment, of like yet another disappointment, broken promises, whatever. And then I went and got married when I was 22 or 23 years old. And I was certain that no one was going to love me. I was going to be this old spinster cat lady because clearly there was something wrong with me. So married as a baby, don't do that. And it was very lonely, right? We were too young, but there was a lot of stuff there where I had this sense of trying to like, wanting to like feel like I had to beg to be loved or thought of or cherished or any of the above. And it was always trying to figure out what is it? What can I do? What is it about me? And then when we had our miracle baby and when she was 6, we kind of decided that was it. And we had a moment where it felt pretty calm and quite loving in a way. Like we went to this mediation and in that time I did what we are all told to do, right? I went to therapy. I talked about it in therapy. I read books. I journaled, conversations with my girlfriends, like all the things. And it feels good in the moment. There's some benefit there. But when you just stay in the story, that becomes your identity. And my father, who had been in and out, like the thing about him is he is brilliant in his creative genius. And he's charming and he's charismatic and he's also a complete narcissist. Father comes and says, hey, listen, I think it's the perfect time you guys should move to California. Leave the cold, like come take over this family business. Like it's time. There's capital, you can whatever. And I said, well, number one, I'm not moving across the country for your next big deal. Like my entire life, it's been the next big deal. Number 2, I'm only going to disrupt Maddie's life once. I moved around a lot when I was little and it's hard, right? You don't feel just like you can be a little girl. Like there's always this sense of like, what's next? And he said, and I'm not leaving the horses. And my mom had just had a surgery that wasn't really working out very well. So like there was all these pieces. He said, no problem. I'll have a barn built. We'll take care of your mom. Here's the financials. You can look at it. The money's there. And everything in me was screaming, no, 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 no. Like standing in the middle of Times Square and every billboard said, no, no, no. And what did I do? I said, I want what I want. And I packed up my mom, my daughter, 2 horses and 3 cats and drove across the country and moved to California. So we got here, and at first it was like a freaking fairy tale. Like it was so fun. The horses out every weekend. My parents were like hanging out with friends. We were having family dinners. Maddie was like, oh, this is so fun. My grandparents are like, it was great. And there was this little part of me that felt that little pit in my stomach. But I really, really thought it was just, I wanted so desperately for her to be happy. And she was about to start a new school and new friends. And I just wanted her to feel settled in and not missing her old life. I'm in the back of the studio. My father had left and I hear some noise and I look around the corner and I see all these people coming into the front of the studio. And they happen to all have guns and they're drawn and they're pointed at me. And they put me in handcuffs and put me on a chair. And my first thought was, my mom's going to be home in 20 minutes with my little girl and a new friend from the first time from school. Like, I need to call them. By the time they get here, we'll figure it out. So without spending the next 20 hours together, I found myself in the middle of this huge DEA investigation. Massive. And so as a result of that, they froze all the assets. So I had no income. This relationship with my father, over. And now I had to make a decision. Kind of like when I was 18. Like, what do I do? I could take us back to Minnesota in a heartbeat. My chosen family, they would have been on a plane in 5 seconds and drove us home. They would have been so happy. Or I could keep my promise to my little girl and break generations of lack of integrity and broken promises. And so at the end of the day, that's what I decided was the most important. So we stayed. But in that time, in that moment, I then went back to doing the things that we are told to do. in therapy, processing this betrayal and writing letters to my father that I never would send because you can't fuel the fire, and just going through all of this emotion. And but I was balancing all the time between rage and sadness, a broken heart. Like, who does this? And I couldn't get out of that one or the other. And you can't be present. There's no moving forward. There's no joy. There's no possibility. There's no making plans. And I certainly wasn't being the best mama. And it was kind of like, you get to a certain point and you're sick of yourself. Like, you don't want to talk about it anymore. You want the story is just like, you're like, I'm just done. And it was about that time where I started learning about some other things. But then, before I went into that, I decided this would be a phenomenal time to start dating. So I went on Match for the first time. I've never been on a dating app. It was a Monday night. I literally was sitting with a glass of wine on my bedroom floor, and I did the thing. And you get like 5,000 crazy people. And then I went on a date, and I was like, eh. And then I went on another one, and it was like, okay, well, that was kind of interesting. And then I went on a second date with that person, and on that second date, I had such a sense of like feeling unsafe, like just like a attack to my senses. And I am quite sensitive. I mean, I'm a badass, but I'm sensitive. And the voice in my head just kept saying, what do you expect? Like, you're getting, you're not getting younger. And I found myself, and I got into a relationship that was very abusive, emotionally, mentally, verbally. And it took me a long time to get out of it. But in that time, again, in the same breath, I was too much, right? I have too big a personality. I'm too, motivated, and I'm too independent. But then I was also not enough. Like, oh, can you make yourself into this prostitute-like person so that I can, like, too much, not enough, shrink, inflate. Like, once I finally got over it, that was my line in the sand, out of it. And I said, never again. Never again will I be in a situation where I feel like I'm made to be crazy, that someone goes out of their way to make sure that that you're not that special, where you're a ping pong ball of trying to be anybody but who you are to make this person love you. And I was just like, I'm happy. Like, I have friends, I have family, I'm my baby girl. Like, I'm gonna do my thing. And then once I kind of let go of that, I started going down this path, and I found something that then kind of became the basis of what my life's work is. And in a matter of weeks, there was parts of me that I didn't recognize in all the best ways. And that identity was no longer mine. And that anger and the rage and the sadness and the guilt and the fear and the shame, it was gone. And it wasn't about more therapy and to go unpacking shit from when I was 5. Like, don't need to do that. And that then became this work. And I created this work for me first. But on the other side of that, I've been married for 2.5 years to literally the greatest love of my life. There could not be a more perfect person for us, for each other. But without this work, no chance in hell.
Wow.
Because, you get caught in the story and the voice and the identity and the old, and you keep thinking about, well, this has happened. You have all of this evidence. And that's what brings us to today.
Well, quite a journey for sure, and I think a lot of women can relate in seeing how they're patterns, right? Like the things that we learned when we were younger, what we believed about ourselves and our worthiness, and how we were loved or not loved, how that shapes how we show up in other relationships until we form that relationship with ourself first.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to think that that's probably a big part of this journey is we have to learn how to love ourselves before we can receive love from somebody else. One of the things that you brought up, and I'm big on catching patterns, is the amount of times that you unintentionally ignored the feelings that you were getting,
Mm-hmm.
the intuition, the 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 nudge, the pull, that this isn't quite right, that this isn't not what I'm supposed to do, but you overrid those decisions, those feelings that you were having. How has that changed for you?
So it's interesting because there's intuition and then there's the voice in your head, and people get that confused. So oftentimes when I'm having conversations with someone around stepping into growth or transformation or whatever, the voice in your head is going to get really loud and be like, this is not the time. This is not the time. Like, let's keep doing what we're doing for a little longer, because the unconscious mind, its job is to keep us safe. And so it knows how to survive in the dysfunction and the mess. It doesn't know what it's like on the other side. So it's like, oh, let's keep you here. The difference between the voice in your head and intuition, you have to really look at the three eyes, right? Intuition, intellect, and insight. And being able to trust those. But trust is a big piece, because when you have all these experiences, you're like, well, I don't know. I thought I knew, and look how that turned out. And then again and again, we have all this evidence that we can't trust ourselves. And for me, being a little bit type A and like super, like if I want something, I'm like, figure it out, right? I'm super resourceful. I wanted what I wanted, and so I ignored those pieces because I was overriding to try to manage the outcome. Because if I could just get there to California, then it's all going to be okay, right? It's none of these things that my friends and family are worried about. That's not going to happen. And with that relationship, the overriding, like I can remember, like I can feel it in my gut of what I felt in that day, and I was so like taken aback. And I really can't tell you, other than, years and years and years of being told inadvertently or blatantly that, I'm just not enough or too much, whatever it is. And it kind of felt like the easy button, like, oh, this person's interested in me and they're interesting and let's just see where this goes. But, I'm not like a great analyzer. Like if I decide I'm going to buy something, I'm going to go buy it. I don't care. I'm not going to sit and make 40 different, checks. I'm very much a very fast decision maker, which is wonderful and horrible in the same time, right? And so back then, where I didn't have what I have now, that fear of what if this is it, or what if this was the thing. So I managed the outcomes, and I ignored what I knew in my heart and my gut.
Walk me through the difference so that our listener can start to feel the difference in her own self and in her own body between those three eyes. I believe you said intuition, intellect, and insight. Is that correct? Can you give me some examples of what each of those look and or feel like?
So intellect obviously is cognitively looking at things and evidence-based decisions and going, here's what we know. Insight is where we can take a look at something from a higher, like 35,000 feet, and go, okay, this makes sense. And sometimes that comes from external input as well. Like somebody else has some insight and you go, right, that makes a lot of sense. It's more like our perspective. And then the intuition is that part of us that knows what the right thing is. We feel it in our body, right? The intuition is very much somatic. It's very much, and it's different for everybody. For me, it's like right in the center of my belly, like in my abdomen. Some people, it's in their chest. It's a physiological reaction to your unconscious mind telling you what's right. And you can feel it. So, and also in that space, it's really important, I think, to understand my methodology is called Clear to Create. And the reason for that is my tagline, my pretty logo, has always been your very best life. So from the time I was a teenager, I'm like, if we've been besties for 20 minutes or 20 years, I want you to live your version of your very best life. And it's different for every one of us. But the truth is, you can't go from being held back and immersed in childhood stuff and past pain and parent stuff and failed marriages and failed businesses and all these things to just living your very best life. We have to clear before we can create. We have to clear the story to create the life. Everybody says, I want a different story, to which I say, then stop telling the old one. We have to clear the cycles to create the confidence. We have to clear the patterns to create the partnerships. We want fulfilling, loving, amazing partnerships, romantically, personally, professionally, with our family, with our children. But when you bring all the old bullshit, all those old patterns, you don't get those relationships. You don't get those partnerships. You get more of the same, which 99% of the time is what you don't want, because you don't realize that's what your brain is focusing on. And we have to clear the resentment to create the results. So many high achieving people, especially women, almost get there, almost get what they want, but they don't. And then there's this question of, well, I'm resisting or I'm self-sabotaging. And my question is, that's great, but what's underneath that is, what are you resenting? And then we have to clear the loss to create the love. Even if it was a marriage that you know wasn't right to stay in, or a relationship or whatever, you still have to grieve for what you wanted it to be. Nobody ever gets in a relationship thinking, all right, this is going to be fun for a couple years and then I'm out. So we all have that idea, and you got to clear that loss at a cellular level to create the love. So all of that to say, there's this part of this process is getting to clear and then create and then claim it as yours. And it really is a start to finish piece. But the beautiful thing is, it's weeks, not years.
You know something? There is a small favor that has a huge impact that I have not asked you for in a little while, and that is to leave a review of the Gutsy Podcast on the platform that you're listening to it on right now. In the moment, you might be thinking, oh, does the review actually really matter? Let me tell you why it matters. First and foremost, I read all of them, okay? It brings a smile to my face. It lets me know that you're hearing, receiving, and making gutsy moves on the other end of this episode. But besides the little heel click that I do every time that I read a review, it also helps the algorithm tell other amazing women like you that, hey, this is a podcast that you might like. And if you've been listening to the Gutsy Podcast, whether it's been one episode or 500 of them, you know just how impactful it can be to make these moves in your life, to trust yourself, to go for it. So let's pay that forward. Your review might be the difference between somebody stopping and saying, yep, I'm going to listen to this show, or continuing to scroll, looking for the guidance and support and the answers that she could have right here on the Gutsy Podcast. It's free, it takes 2 minutes, and it makes a big impact. I big puffy heart adore you, and thank you so much for continuing to listen to the Gutsy Podcast. Amazing. So the natural question I'm certain somebody's thinking right now is how? How do I clear? You know, if we're talking about years of conditioning, years of belief systems, years of like showing up in relationships in the same way that we always have, thinking that's better, but you know, the old stuff is still coming forward. How do we clear so that we can create?
Absolutely. So before I answer that, I'm going to give a little visual for everybody around the difference between the conscious mind and the unconscious mind, because this is important. So if we think about our bodies, everything from the neck up is our conscious mind. It's our critical faculties. It's everything we know. It's our goal setter. We use it all day long, and it's about 10%, which means the rest of our body, everything from the neck down, the other 90% is our unconscious mind. So if the conscious is the goal setter, the unconscious is the goal getter. It's the operating system. It's the general. And most importantly, it is the literal library of everything you've ever experienced in every single moment you've been on this planet. And it's all held at a cellular level. We know memory is cellular. Of course, it lives in the circuitry of the brain, but science, we know memory is cellular. And when it is not released properly, and by properly, I mean not going back into the story and reliving the stuff that caused the trauma and the pain in the first place, we see things manifest in the body. Anxiety, depression, overwhelm, disease, illness, injury, all the things. And in order to actually have this process give you the ability to clear all of the dysfunction, we have to be able to do that in a way that's not reinstalling the traumatic neurology. Now, how do we do it? So before we can clear anything, we have to get clear. Step number 1, clarity. And this is always such an interesting conversation, because when you ask people, like, okay, great, like, what do you want? Do you know what you want? Yeah, I know what I want. La 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 la. Okay, really. So, but when we go deep, there's typically one of 2 responses. One is, I had no idea. And the other is, no one's ever asked me that way. I thought that I was so clear on the values, the non-negotiables, and the desires. But here's what happens. It's like going through life, going to a restaurant, sitting down, the server comes and says, what can I bring you? So, well, I'm really thirsty and I'd like to start with a salad and I'd like a protein and a vegetable. And they say, amazing. And they bring you an iced tea and a lovely Caesar salad and a roasted chicken and some fresh Brussels sprouts. And you got 100% exactly what you ordered to a T. The issue is you wanted a lovely glass of Chardonnay and an arugula salad with figs and goat cheese and a piece of halibut and some roasted asparagus. So you see the difference. Specificity. Most people don't have it. Most people, they never get what they want because they never have that level of clarity. So once we have that clarity, then we can clear. Then we can do the dysfunction detox. Then we can get rid of all of that stuff that's keeping you from getting what you want and living the life that you want. And once we do that, then we get to ask the question, okay, great. Who are you? Like, who are you actually? Who are you now? Outside of the labels of mama, wife, CEO, like all the society stuff and the conditioning, like all the bullshit. Who are you now? And between now and dead, what do you actually want? And that's a hard question. It often brings tears because so many of the women will say, I don't actually know. I don't really know. I can't answer that question. So then we get to move into the creating phase where then we get to answer that question and we start really figuring that out. And then this is critical. If we're going to blow out decades of strategy and neurology and behavior and ways of thinking and old patterns, we have to replace it. Otherwise, you end up in this maddening space of, great, now I had all these ahas and what the hell do I do with it? It's why people say, I've been in therapy, I've been in the work for years, and I was like so good, and had made all this progress, and I was like amazing, and then this thing happened, and bam, I went back to the person I was 27 years ago or whatever. It's because so much of this work gives you the clarity and the awareness and the ahas, but it doesn't replace the behavior, the strategy, and the neurology. So then, once we have the clarity, we've gotten rid of all the dysfunction, we figured out who the hell you are and what you want, then we actually reverse engineer that so that it's not a theory and you don't spend the rest of your life wishing for something. You actually get to have that because, again, so often it becomes evidence that we don't finish what we start. We say we're going to do stuff and we don't do it. Fill in the blank. I'm going to exercise or I'm going to do this, whatever. And then it's like, yeah, okay, well, I never actually do it, so I'm going to just beat myself up some more and why even try? And when I look at this particular part of the process, if you look at goals in general, we're setting a goal, this thing, let's say it's a trip. Where do you want to go, Laura? Where would you like to go in the world?
I would like to go to Greece.
Okay, great. So the goal is between December 31st, 2026 or sooner, I'm booking my dream trip to Greece. Amazing. Now, typically you'd be like, great, what do I have to do between now and then? This. Fabulous. 99% of the time it won't get done. The unconscious mind can't fill in the blanks moving forward. So what we do is we look at that and we reverse engineer it backwards. So what I would say to you is, what has to happen in the second before you could call me and say, Riana, I just freaking booked, my trip is booked. Like, what has to happen the second before that? Maybe you get an email from your travel advisor that says, here's the villa, here are your flights, everything's done. And then I want you to ground into what that feels like. What do you hear? What do you see? Are there other people in the room? Do you smell anything? Is there a candle burning? What do you feel? Because the brain doesn't know the difference between something that we've experienced in real life and something that we've experienced with all the senses. And it only takes 17 seconds when you hold a thought with that level of emotion to either create new neural pathways or reinforce the old ones. So now you've activated the reticular activating system in your brain, and you're now laser focused on recognizing and looking for and seeing the people, the resources, the experiences, the opportunities, the sign on the wall that you would have never seen before to get you to Greece. And then we reverse engineer it by saying what has to happen just before that, and just before that, and just before that, all the way back till today. And so when life comes at you, because it will, and you're like, I don't even know what my fucking name is, let alone how I'm going to book a trip to Greece. Like, literally, you have it right in front of you. And there's no questioning yourself. There's no guessing. There's no, is this the right thing? What do I do next? And then you get to move into that claim phase where you get to own it and integrate it and embody it. And when you own it, you don't need that external permission and justification and somebody to tell you that this is the right thing, right? You fall in love with yourself again. You get to fully trust yourself. You get to hold boundaries and communicate your needs. And you get to deepen the richness in every relationship in your life that you choose to have, that you choose to keep. And then when you integrate that into your energy and your decisions and your friendships and your relationships and your work and all the things, then you become her. So you start to embody this new frequency, this new way of being in the world where you get to just magnetize with grace. And frequency is important here because we don't get what we want, we get who we are. And when we talk about frequency, I like to use music. So what's your favorite genre of music?
Rock and roll.
Amazing. And what's your least favorite?
Country.
I knew you were going to say that. It's my favorite. Country's my favorite. So imagine, so for those of you that's listening, it's really important. I need you to think about your favorite music and your least favorite music and swap them in, okay? So I want you to imagine everything that you want for your life. Magic Wand, Fairy Dust, no limitations, is hanging out up here at Sirius XM 111, all rock and roll, all day, freaking amazing. And consciously, we feel like we hang out in these higher frequency emotions and vibrations and all the things. And there's some truth to that. The problem is unconsciously, we are often hanging out in the low frequency vibrations, right? The guilt, the fear, the doubt, the shame. And the issue there is that's like Kenny Chesney, 24 hours a day, and you can't turn it off and you can't turn it down, and it's just blaring country music, and the question is, can you hear rock and roll on the Kenny Chesney station? Not a chance in hell. How do you hear the rock and roll? You have to raise the frequency. You have to change the channel. Because we are often looking for like direction and give me a sign. But the universe will never direct you. But it will always reflect you. So whatever's going on that's not working in the way in which it could or should, it's just a reflection. But the good news is you can change it in a heartbeat.
How do you change that frequency? How do you change that channel so that you get on the same level of what it is that you can see and feel that you want, but you're not yet there?
So I do something with my clients. So it's called the Magnet for Miracles process. And I'd be happy to walk you through it right now if you guys would like.
Let's do it.
So I talk a lot about making values-driven decisions, and that's what gives us that opportunity to make a clean yes and clean no in a matter of moments to understand if somebody actually gets to be in our world with that menu that we created. And for me and my business, my values are love, impact, generosity, belief in what's possible, and being a magnet for miracles. And it's my favorite thing to teach. All right, so you need some very scientific, technical things to do this work. You need 2 pieces of paper and a rubber band. That's it. And a pen. Now, you're going to take 2 clean pieces of paper. On the top of one, you're going to write away. On the top of the other, you're going to write toward. And I want you to imagine you're in a room with 4 walls. And if you're visual, I actually want you to physically think about one of those walls is going to be your away wall. And on your away wall is everything you don't want. All of it. You don't want ever, you don't want again, you don't want more of. And you're going to actually fully write that whole list. And if you need 10 pieces of paper, go for it. And so for you, if you were going to pick a wall in your room, front, behind, left, right, what would be your away wall?
The left wall.
Left wall. Now, on the other wall, the other piece of paper is your toward wall. And this is magic wand, fairy dust, goals, wishes, dreams, all the things. Everything you could ever imagine that you want for every area of your life. You're going to write it all down. Now, this is important because every single day we think between 65,000 and 85,000 thoughts, which is insane. 90% of those thoughts are recycled. They're the same things we thought yesterday, the day before, and last week, and last month, and for sure in the middle of the night when you're pleading. If you could go back to sleep now, you could get 1 hour or 2 hours or 16 minutes or whatever. And the problem with that is 75% of those thoughts are negative. But what we don't realize, and we alluded to earlier, is that the way that the unconscious mind is wired is most of the time we're thinking about the things we don't want. I don't want to be in another relationship where I feel completely dismissed. I don't want to be in another relationship where I don't feel safe. I don't want to be in this debt. I don't want to be in this stupid job that I hate. But the unconscious mind can't hear clarifiers. It doesn't hear the don't. It just knows what you're focused on. And it's why people will say, clearly it's me. It's just not, I'm just not going to have the job or the relationship or whatever, because every single time I end up marrying the same person over and over, or end up in the same relationship over and over, or every company that I go in, the boss hates me. It's amazing. But because you're focused on that, that's what you continue to call in. So that's what we're going to actually end and stop with this process. And the good news is it takes about 72 hours. So if you are ready to play and play all in for the next 72 hours, we're going to rewire your neurology and change your world. How does that sound?
Let's do it.
Okay. Everybody make your lists. Put your rubber band on. Here's what we're going to do. Anytime that you find yourself thinking about something and you realize you're thinking about, like fear stuff, negative stuff, lack stuff, I want you to snap the rubber band hard so it stings, because your brain needs the pattern interrupt. I want you to figure out what it was you were thinking about. I promise you it was something on that away wall list. And then I want you to replace it with a better feeling thought, aka what you actually desire. So easy way is just flip it around. What is it that you actually do want, and anchor into that? What does that feel like if that's true already? You can sit for 60 seconds in actual gratitude, not the bullshit Pollyanna, I'm so thankful for my life, but like literal visceral gratitude. Like it's been raining for 1,000 years and the sun feels so freaking good on my face. I'm just going to sit here and enjoy it. But like something real and tangible in the moment. And if you're still feeling it, I want you to ask yourself, who can I serve in this moment? And it does not need to be some big grand gesture. It could literally be a text to a girlfriend. It could be a thought or an intention or a prayer for someone. It could be that, your neighbor's planter blew over and it's the dirt's sitting there and you just pick it up, just something to get out of your head in service of someone else. Now, what you might notice the first day is you're rarely snapping at all, because you're so used to functioning this way. And sometimes it'll be, you don't even know it, but your body will tell you. Like you'll feel a little anxious, or your heart is racing, or you have a pit in your stomach and you just don't feel good. I still want you to snap it, and I want you to try to remember what the heck you were thinking about last that you can actually comprehend. As we go on, day 2, you're going to start snapping more, and day 3, you're going to start snapping more. And this is not about you never having these thoughts or these emotions, because we're not going to give you a lobotomy. This is about getting yourself out of it as fast as possible. Because oftentimes, you sit in it for a day. You make up all these stories, all this stuff, you're in this space and you're like in it. It could be a whole day. And then maybe the next day it's some hours. And then it's minutes. And then you get so good at it that you can almost in real time flip the switch. And when you flip that switch, that's when everything happens. Because if we think about our life like a cake, right? If we bake a cake and we take it out of the oven and it tastes terrible, how are we going to bake a better cake? Well, we're going to look at the ingredients. And all of us are governed by 4 states: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Well, the physical is the cake, right? It's the last thing to come together. And the ingredients are the emotional, the mental, the spiritual. So it all starts here. Like we know that our thoughts mixed with our physiology become our state, become our emotions, become our behavior. And that's what makes our life. So the fastest way to change what's happening and what's showing up in your physical reality is this process. And it's like, yeah, and that's all you will continue to get when that's what you're focused on. So play with me in the space of becoming a magnet for miracles and watch what happens and come back and tell us, because I think you'll be amazed at how quickly this will shift your life.
Such a simple and just completely different type of exercise to retrain your brain. Like there's so many modalities, but I think one of the biggest things that you pointed out that I caught on to was like, we just don't realize what we're doing until we see it, and then you can't unsee it, which is good. We want to be in that space, because when you can see it, you can catch it. When you can catch it, you can rewire it.
That's right.
And you're so right. As soon as you start rewiring this for yourself, you start looking at things differently, you start claiming things differently, you raise that frequency. So I'm listening to the Rock Channel. I'm not listening to Kenny Chesney. Sorry.
That's
No,
right.
no offense to Kenny Chesney. It's just like, that's going to piss me off. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because it's just not my vibe.
No, it's going to irritate you.
But if we can put on some corn radio, listen, I'm in a different state of mind. Okay.
1000%.
But once you're listening, I'm going to use analogies here. Okay. So stick with me. Once you're listening to your frequency, your radio station, it is mind blowing how much you see through other people, what they deal with, what they accept, what they settle for, what they're not awake to. And we're not here to fix people, right? We're not here to judge or criticize, but it's just such a level of awareness and awakeness that you're like, holy shit. I like how many people are just operating at this lower frequency and they don't even realize it. But you have to want more for you to be able to make a change. Otherwise, you're going to continue to repeat the patterns like you mentioned earlier. You're going to stay in that frequency. You're going to keep attracting the same love. You're going to keep having the same business problems. You're going to keep getting, working for the same busted ass boss. Like, it's going to continue. And I think that those cycles are a great indicator to say, hey, this is maybe where I need to pay attention. This cycle keeps showing up in my life for a reason. And it's not for anybody else to fix. It's for something for me to go inward and shift on my own.
Yeah, and to that point, the second thing that the unconscious mind does for us is it wants resolution. So if there's not resolution and there's needs that weren't getting met, either as a child or an adolescent or in young adulthood, they're either going to get met consciously or unconsciously. And the way to get them met consciously is to replay them over and over and over inside of human relationships. So don't be surprised that those things, you're like, oh yeah, wow, every single relationship I'm in, there's this element or this dynamic, because it wants resolution, and that's how you get it. And you don't have to let that continue from now until dead. We can take care of that.
Yeah. Well, and when you make these shifts for yourself, you change the pattern. You shift the kind of relationships that you're attracted to and are attracted back to you. You attract the right clients in your business. You get the career that's actually fulfilling. You find the love that sees you for who you are and celebrates that and doesn't dilute it or attempt to, but to come full circle here in our conversation, you got to love yourself first.
Absolutely.
You have to want this stuff for you before no one else can give it to you in a way that's sustainable. Because when you have it, that's unshakable. That's yours. No one can take that away from you. Not unless you give them permission anyway.
Right. You can't delegate this piece, guys.
Nope, sorry. This is the inner, they call it work for a reason. Yeah. But if you go down this path, you really lean into this type of work, you can and you will start attracting all the things that that you're made for. Wow.
The other thing, it's not even like, okay, you'll be equipped to make the decision faster or get out of the relationship or the job. You're just not even available for it anymore. It doesn't even enter in. So it changes everything.
Not even available for it. That is the vibe, my friend. That is the vibe. Riana, I know that you do this work with amazing women all over the place. Tell us, where can we find and connect and learn more about you?
Yeah, of course. So everywhere, Riana Malia, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, all the things. Substack, my website, same, rianamalia.com. But if I may, I'd like to leave everyone with a gift.
Please.
Before we wrap. So I have created something called the Extraordinary Love Index, which we lovingly refer to her as the Ellie. So the Ellie is a diagnostic assessment. This is not a what Disney character are you? This is like legit 40 questions. Give yourself a good 10 minutes to take it so you can answer thoughtfully. So we're going to look at 9 different key areas, and it answers the question, what is standing between you and extraordinary love? And hear us when we say, this starts with love for yourself. It's not just about romantic love. This is love, period. And then you're going to take this assessment, and I'm going to send you a 28-page personalized report that looks at all of those areas and everything that you answered. And it's going to give you a score, and it's going to tell you, because of this, I bet these things are showing up in your world. And here's the cost for you of staying here. And here's something that you can do right now to raise that frequency, to move you forward, to get you closer to the life that's actually meant for you. And I think everyone in the world should take the Ellie, because you're going to get insight into you in a way that you probably never have. I get people all the time that say, oh my God, that just connected more dots than the last freaking 3 years of me trying to figure this out in therapy. Like, it's just mind blowing of what you get to see about yourself, and then how you get to implement that in all your relationships. And again, most importantly, in starting with the relationship that you have with you. So go take the Ellie.
Amazing. We will link the Ellie in the show notes. This is a free assessment that everyone can take, and you get you get this really incredible personalized report that shows and breaks all these things down. So make sure you click on that in the show notes. And I've got to know, Riana, what does gutsy mean to you?
Oh, what does gutsy mean? Gutsy means like looking at something and knowing, you know what, I want that, and all of the things that say I'm too old, or I'm too young, or I don't have enough money, or I don't have enough time. Send it all to what we call the fuck off room. And then just go for it. Because honestly, at the end of the day, what do you have to lose? Between now and dead, what is the life that you want to live, right? So there's almost not a time when somebody comes to the end of their life that they're like, damn, I wish I wouldn't have tried so many things. It's the opposite. It's like we think we have all this time, and we don't. And if there's something on your heart, or something that you have a desire, I don't care if it's learning how to paint or going to ride a horse in the blue Caribbean waters. And I say that because I just did that, and that was like on my bucket list because I'm an island girl and a horse girl. Like, whatever it is, figure it out. And just because you don't have the how, and you have no idea the solution or the steps, the how is not your job. Get really clear. Stay in the energy of this is happening, and let the universe figure out the how.
Listen, I can't make this shit up. You know, we're always going to come back to trusting yourself. We're always going to come back to listening to what that inner voice is saying, to release the need to control everything, to have this kind of death grip around how it has to be and when it has to happen. I know it's uncomfy, but when we release that control, you listen to your body and you intentionally move forward, friend, everything starts to change, not just in your relationships, but in your health, in your business, in your career, in yourself. You deserve love that matches the frequency, the vibrancy, and just the overall awesomeness of the human that you are. And if nothing else, just remember, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. If we're not already friends, come find me. I'm on all the platforms. My handle is @thatlauraora. And as always, until I see you next time, stay gutsy.